Nachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 18. Parikshit cursed by a Brahmana boy. Text number 45? I don't think that's right. 44. We are on text 44. So, it's different than what's on the board here. You all have your phones for the verse? Okay. Text 44. Tat adya naha papam upaiti ananvayam yet nashta natasya vasoho vilampakat parasparam granti shapanti vrinjate pashun striyaha artan puru dasavyaha janaha tad adyana papamupaittyananvayam yannashtanathasya vasor vilampakat parasparam gnanti shapanti vrinjate pashun striyo artan purutasya vojanaha dadadyana papamupaityananvayam yannashtanathasya vasor vilampakat parasparam gnantosh pashapanti vrinjate pashun striyotartan purudasavo janaha syavo vanaha tadadyana papamupaityananvayam yannashtanathasya vasor vilampakat parasparam gnanti shapanti vrinjate pashun striyorartan purudasavo janaha
Rajana papamupaittyananvayam yannashtanathasya vasor vilampakat Parasparam Gananti Shapanti Vrinjate
Parasparam Nanti Shapanti Vrinjate
Pashun Striyortan Puru Tasavojana
Pashun Kriyortan Guru Dasvat Yamojanaha. Yanashtanata Savasorgulam Pakat
Shanti Shanti Ninjate Pashun Striyotar Purudasavoita
Tadajana papamupaitinanvayang Yanashtanatasya vasorvilumpakat Parasparang nanti shapanti rinjate Pashun striyortan purudasya vojanaha Tadayana papaiti anvayam
Tadajana papamupaiti anvayam
Yanastanatasya vasorvilumpakat
Yanastanatasya vasorvalumpakat
Parasparam ganti sapanti rinjate
Parasparam nanti sapanti vrinjate
Asun sriyoritan purudasya bojana
Pashun Striyortan Purudasavojana
Tadadhyana papamupaityana vayam
Tadadhyana papamupaityanatvayam
Yanastanatasya vasur vimulpakat
Yanashtanatasya vasorvalumpakat
Parasparam gyanti shapanti vrinjate
Parasparam Gnanti Vishapanti Vinjate
Pashun shriyorartan purudasya
Pashyan Shriyo Nartan Purudasavojana
Tadadhyana papamupaitananvayam
Tadadhyana papamupaityanatvayam
Yanashanatasya vasorvulampakat
Yanashtanatasya vasorvalumpakat
Parasparam nanti shapanti vrinjate
Parasparam Gunanti Vishapanti Vinjate
Pashun striyortan purudasya vojanaha Tadadhyana papamupayadhyanvayam
Tadadhyana papamupaityanatvayam
Yanashtanasya vasur vilampakat
Yanashtanatasya vasorvalumpakat
Parasparam ganti sapanti vindyate
Gnanti Shapanti Vinjate
Pashan shriyortan purudasvayojana
Pashun Striyo Tartan Purudasavojana
Tadadhyana papamupaityana vayam
Papam Pumupaityanatvayam
Yanastanatasya vasorvilumpakat
Yanashtanatasya vasorvalumpakat
Parasparam grinanti shapnanti vringyate
Parasparam Gnanti Shapanti Vinjate
Asun stiyoritan purudasya vojana
Pashun Shriyortan Purudasavojana
Tadadhyana papamupaityanatvayam
Tarajana papamupaitinanvayam.
Yanashtanātasya vasodvilumpakat.
Yanashtanātasya vasorvilumpakat.
Parasparam gnanti shapanti vrinjate.
Parasparam gnanti shapanti vrinjate.
Pashun shriyo artan purudasya vojanaha.
Pashun striyo artan purudasavojana.
Taradyana papamupaityananvayam.
Taradyana papamupaitinanvayam.
Yanashtanātasya vasorvilampakat.
Yanashtanātasya vasorvilumpakat.
Parasparam gnanti shapanti vrinjate.
Parasaram gnanti shapanti vrinjate.
Pashun sriyortan purudasya vojanaha.
Pashun striyortan purudasavojana.
Tadayana papamupayanatam.
Taradyana papamupaitinanvayam.
Yanastanathaya pasurvilumpakahat.
Yanashtanātasya vasorvilumpakat.
Parasparam ganti sapanti vijate.
Parasparam gnanti shapanti vrinjate.
Pasum striyoratum purudasayojanaha.
Ashum striyo narta purudurojana. Word for word. Oh, we have someone online that wants to chant? Dr. Fred wants to chant?
Tarajana papamupaiti anvayam.
Taradyana papamupaitinanvayam.
Yanastanatasya vasorvilumpakat.
Yanashtanātasya vasorvilumpakat.
Parasparam gnati shapanti vrinjate.
Parasparam gnanti shapanti vrinjate.
Pashun sriyortan purudasayojanaha.
Pashun striyorarta purudasavojana. Do we have someone online? If hands aren't raised, then we don't know. Okay. Tat, for this reason, adya, from this day, naha, upon us, papam, reaction of sin, upaiti, will overtake, ananvayam, disruption, yet because, nashta, abolished, natasya, of the monarch, vasoho, of wealth, vilumpakat, being plundered, parasparam, between one another, gnanti, will kill, shapanti, will do harm, vrinjate, will steal, pashun, animals, striya, women, artan, riches, puru, greatly, dasavaha, thieves, janaha, the mass of people. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Due to the termination of the monarchical regimens and the plundering of the people's wealth by rogues and thieves, there will be great social disruptions. People will be killed and injured, and animals and women will be stolen. And for all these sins, we shall be responsible. Purport. The word naha, we, is very significant in this verse. The sage rightly takes the responsibility of the Brahmanas as a community for killing monarchical government, and thus giving an opportunity to the so-called Democrats, who are generally plunderers of the wealth of the state subjects. The so-called Democrats capture the administrative machine without assuming responsibility for the prosperous condition of the citizens. Everyone captures the post for personal gratification. And thus, instead of one king, a number of irresponsible kings grow up to tax the citizens. It is foretold herein that in the absence of good monarchical government, everyone will be the cause of disturbance for others by plundering riches, animals, women, etc. Om Jnanatamrandasya Gnajana Shalakaya Chakshurumalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we're continuing these themes of Shamika Rishi explaining what happens when the Brahmanic class becomes corrupt. And in this case, where he's focusing on these thieves and rogues, these upstarts, gaining control in government and using it for their own gratification. And they do this by taxing the citizens, basically doing as they please because they have the power to do so. And it causes disturbance for all subjects, riches, animals, women, etc., etc. So this is what happens when you don't have a head and arms, or you don't have a head leading the arms, or you don't have a head leading the whole body, and your arms are corrupt. They're not working properly. They're working against the body. And you have all others, the whole rest of the body, not working for the welfare of the body. So it's like the Brahmanas without the Brahmanas. The Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras, they have no direction that is proper. So Srimad Rishi is continuing he's foreseeing the degradation, and of course he understands the age of Kali is there, so this is natural. So in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, characteristics of the age of Kali are described, and one of them is that the citizens will become totally disturbed by so much taxation. You see that nowadays, right? People are disturbed by paying taxes, and they just in general, don't trust where their tax money is going, Whereas when you have a Rajarshi, or you have Brahmanas and a good king, the citizens are okay with being taxed because they understand this is for my protection. Because the Kshatriya the king has to get some money somehow, and so to administrate the state. And he provides protection for the citizens. So then, good knowledge and various projects to help them be elevated to transcendental knowledge. And so they're okay, we're giving it to a good government, a good king, so they're okay being taxed. In this way, it's a good system. But then when you don't have trust in the leaders and you're being heavily taxed, you don't know where it's going. You hear various scandals of different charities that use their money for mostly to pay their own employees, and some percentage goes to the actual mission. And then you see that such government officials are living so lavishly, unnecessarily, have their own private jets and et cetera, et cetera. Of course, some of that is maybe some opulences are necessary for their posts, but anyway, so the point is that we need a good government, right? Or saintly persons that actually administrate. And I want to actually read the next verse as well, because these themes have been going on for a couple of days. The next verse, at that time, the people in general will fall systematically from the path of a progressive civilization in respect to the qualitative engagements of the castes and orders of society and the Vedic injunctions. Thus, they will be more attracted to economic development for sense gratification. And as a result, there will be an unwanted population on the level of dogs and monkeys. Purport. It is foretold herein that in the absence of a monarchical regimen, the general mass of people will be an unwanted population, like dogs and monkeys. As the monkeys are too sexually inclined and dogs are shameless in sexual intercourse, the general mass of population born of illegitimate connection will systematically go astray from the Vedic way of good manners and qualitative engagements in the castes and orders of life. The Vedic way of life is the progressive march of the civilization of the Aryans. The Aryans are progressive in Vedic civilization. The Vedic civilization's destination is to go back to Godhead, back home, where there is no birth, no death, no old age, and no disease. The Vedas direct everyone not to remain in the darkness of the material world, but to go towards the light of the spiritual kingdom, far beyond the material sky. The qualitative caste system and the orders of life are scientifically planned by the Lord and his representatives, the great rishis. The perfect way of life gives all sorts of instruction in things, both material and spiritual. The Vedic way of life does not allow any man to be like monkeys and dogs. A degraded civilization of sense gratification and economic development is the byproduct of a godless or kingless government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The people should not, therefore, begrudge the poor administrations they themselves elect. So it's a pretty, can seem like a pretty heavy statement that the population without good government under the Vedic progressive civilization, as that isn't a Vedic progressive civilization, then they're more attracted to economic development for sense gratification. So then they become like dogs and monkeys. So it sounds kind of harsh, like calling someone like, you know, some people read Prabhupada's statements about certain human beings that are like on the level of animals, and one might seem disturbed, like you're just calling them animals, like these people are just animals. And it could seem like a very negative connotation to it, but it's actually objective, because we can understand from what is the difference between an animal and a human being. Ultimately, that difference is religion, spiritual knowledge, awakening to higher values of life, inquiring into the absolute truth. But the human being and the animals, they all eat, sleep, mate, defend. So these four pillars of animal life, a human being can do also. And if the human being isn't doing the function of the human body, which is to inquire into the absolute truth, then one's human life hasn't actually begun. So their mentality is still on the animal platform, their consciousness. So objectively, we can just categorize it. Okay, this human being is more on the animal platform. One could say, well, we're different because we're using our intellect to build, furniture and apartments, and we can cook, amazing types of foodstuffs. The animals can't do that. We can sleep. We can make memory foam mattresses and Tempur-Pedic this and that, and we can sleep a lot better. And or we can defend better. We got nuclear bombs and guns and swords and everything. But the principle is the same: defending, sleeping, mating, eating. But the animal cannot inquire into the absolute truth. It can't actually become God realized unless it has some help from a human being to give a prasadam and all that. Of course it won't. Well, hopefully you'll get a human birth next life, or sometimes they go back to Godhead, in rare cases. So, it is objectively speaking, we can understand that most human beings in this world today, society, are functioning on the mentality of animalistic life, which is unfortunate, but it is true. So most of us were also like that as well. Growing up in this culture, you learn to just try to unrestrictedly enjoy your senses to the max. And you may have been brought up with good qualities or values from your parents, but all those values more or less become compromised by the social atmosphere. Because the social atmosphere is such that lust is your best friend, and just go for it, this Freudian philosophy, basically. And get money, enjoy, and you'll be happy. Eat, drink, be merry. What is it? Yeah, be merry, enjoy. Yeah, smoke this, drink that, etc., etc. So, wherever we go today, we are being agitated by this desire for sex, and through TV shows, music, billboards, the way people dress, novels, entertainment, sports, even everything, is like there's some way or other propagating this pleasure, this activity. So then people are having more of the characteristics or qualities of dogs and monkeys. So monkeys have many affairs, with the male monkey has many affairs with various girlfriends and wives and things. And then the dogs are shameless in their sexual intercourse, so they'll do anywhere, doesn't matter, anytime, anywhere. And we see that's like becoming like that today. Things are becoming more acceptable, socially acceptable. It's becoming cool to be a player, right? Or to, at least for men. And so much, what is it called? PDA, public display of affection. There's like a few decades ago, some things that you would see today were completely taboo, right? But now it's become socially acceptable. So, without proper knowledge or transcendental knowledge being educated to people, naturally will go towards these things because it's the age of Kali, and naturally the conditioned soul desires these pleasures. But if one becomes educated, then they can actually navigate themselves in this world that will actually be conducive for their spiritual advancement. And we see that despite today, India's desire to follow the Western civilization in a sense of sense gratification, still there's some roots of Vedic culture there that is being educated amongst the older generation to the younger generation. So we get things like some of these young people grow up in a very very pure way, never perform a sinful act like these 4 sinful acts. Some of them haven't done those things. So it's very special that is still being educated. And also when one becomes a devotee and if they are born into a devotee family, then they get this education. And whether or not they follow it or not, just knowing what the ideal standard is progressive. It's helpful to have that knowledge, because then you'll see when you try to enjoy these sinful activities, you'll understand why you're suffering. Whereas most of us most of us here that were born in American culture, we didn't understand why we were suffering from performing these sinful acts. We were just suffering. And it was like bewildering. No, I just can't understand. This is I'm supposed to be fulfilled by this activity, but I'm suffering. I feel guilty about this, etc., etc. So when one has knowledge of the truth, even if one performs those acts, that knowledge purifies the person. So, so we live in a very precarious society, precarious day and age for making spiritual advancement. It's precarious, you know. You walk out the door and you get all these temptations to enjoy the material world wherever you go out there, and it's so normal, so normalized. Eat this sandwich that has all this meat. Go to this restaurant. Go to this bar. You know, enjoy with this person, that person. Go to the club. One night stand. This, that. You know, it's just like the more you associate with that, then the more normal it feels to you too, because of you taking on that association. You think, well, you know, yeah, I know it's going to be suffering, but everybody's doing it, so try it out. But because you have the knowledge, you know, you're going to suffer even more than you were, because now you have the guilt of knowing and then performing sinful acts, and that's even more suffering, because we know it's displeasing to Krishna. So how do we give up? Well, give up desires for these temptations. It is very difficult, but by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can be free from the influence of Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga is going on. So many things are out there, so many pleasures, so much degradation. People are becoming so much attracted to so much abominable activities. And if we really have really good sadhana and we're absorbed in this knowledge, we have good association of people that are on the right path, then we can become free from the influence of the Kali Yuga. And of course, it might not be away from the mind, but we'll have a higher taste and satisfaction that we know, okay, I actually don't need those things. So it's a really like, it's a special art to learn how to stay in that, because it's so, like I said, it's so easy to get swayed away from with these desires, these material desires, especially they're in our heart. They're not just outside, you know, temptations to enjoy, but the temptation to enjoy is in our heart, actually. And it's those are our anarthas. So to clear those, we have to chant and perform devotional service, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. By chanting the holy name and performance of Sankirtan, then the heart becomes cleansed of all this unwanted anarthas. And so that is the foundation. Of course, along with that is serving the spiritual master, because by the Guru's blessings, then one can overcome all obstacles unimaginably conceived of. Like I would have never guessed that, you know, when I was 15 or something, that that I would be in the position I am now, giving up these activities and etc. But it's only due to the mercy of the devotees and the spiritual masters and Krishna, of course, that such is possible. So this chanting is a quick and easy process to achieve self-realization, to cleanse the heart. And it's not like it's an easy thing to do, to light up the darkness in the heart and get out all of those shadows or those dark places in the heart. But it's not an easy thing, but it is ultimately worth it. And it's really the only direction to go. Because if we just become averse to making progress in cleansing our heart, then we'll just loiter in the material world and continue to suffer. But the material world, the illusory energy is such that it's going to be pushing you towards doing it. It's going to disturb you. You're going to be so disturbed. You're like, okay, call it to Krishna. So to learn the art of always being protected, what I realize is Krishna's protection is there. We just have to desire it. Like, I might be struggling with so many things, materially, so many desires to enjoy materially, whatever. But if I'm just praying to Krishna, like, please protect me from your illusory energy, because I want to make progress towards you. I want to develop my love for you and give up these other desires. Then my realization is Krishna's protection is right there, is available. But the conditioned soul is so conditioned, so much momentum is there for material enjoyment that even though Krishna's mercy and protection is so available, we become averse to it. We're like, no. Okay, maybe like in a few years, then I'll take spiritual life seriously. So it's like people, they say spiritual life is only for when you're older, right? But, oh, wow. But I have to end soon because we have to get ready. I have to get ready for this initiation. Anyway, spiritual life is not when you're older. It can be, but ideally it's when you're 5 years old, right? When you're young, from when you take birth. Prahlad Maharaj says, as I think Magadhari was mentioning, that, that was Rishi. I don't know, somebody was talking about how like people are playing with balls and things like that when it was playing sports. But anyway, so Prahlad Maharaj is saying just, give up playing with balls and recess and all that, and let's focus on self-realization. Imagine telling that to 5-year-olds these days, I have a 5-year-old niece. Maybe I'll tell her that when I visit home in a few weeks. Probably won't work very well because for various reasons. But so it's for when we're young. It's best when you're young because you're not so conditioned. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So when you're young, you're malleable. You absorb more. You're not so habitual to various. You don't have various habits that may be unfavorable for spiritual life. So then you can take up devotional service a little easier. So and he also mentioned that we don't have much time, and also who could say that who's old and who's young? Because if somebody's in their elderly years, like 70 or so, then okay, most likely they have a certain amount of time left. But then you might have like a teenager, a 15-year-old who is going to die tomorrow from whatever, a cancer or a car accident or something. So who is actually older, right? So we don't know when the end of this body's coming. So the point is that whenever you understand that spiritual life is important, then follow at that time. And ideally, if you're younger, it's easier to make spiritual advancement. But it's all precarious because even when you're younger, you're like, you have this, they call delusion of grandeur. You have this desires to travel, go see the world, and do all these things. You haven't gotten the wisdom. Like, actually, it's all the same out there. All the enjoyments. So that kind of wisdom comes, with an age, naturally. And then when you're younger, the body's alive with sensory power, and you can, do so much. You have so much energy to enjoy. And then when you're older, the energy leaves the body. It's more difficult to do basic things, walk upstairs, get up, etc. So anyway, so the point is that let us just continue performing devotional service, taking it seriously, and great progress will be made. And it's always a win-win situation in this Krishna consciousness movement. So today we have an initiation at 10:30. Haribo. Maturnath is going to get Brahmana initiation, and one devotee from Czech will be on Zoom and they'll get first initiation. And then another devotee from Guyana, a Mataji lady, will get second initiation. So this very nice opportunity to gain refreshed inspiration of people taking another step in their spiritual life. And it's always refreshing for me to see someone get initiated, because those days are over for me. I already got my initiations, first and second. But it's like a revigor. It's like, wow, they're giving up all these opportunities, all these material opportunities. They're giving them all up to vow to perform devotional service their whole life. And it's just amazing. Such a monumental event for someone's life to take shelter of a spiritual master and make vows to the spiritual master. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, let me refresh my own vows and determination for spiritual life. So, thank you very much. Sorry we didn't have time for questions or comments. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari.